Hello and welcome to Our Time. Now, you've done many things in your life, you've had many loves, but you end up on your own. This is what happened to our guests, Avis and David Tolcher. Welcome to Our Time.
Hi.
Good evening.
Now, full disclosure, we've known each other for a long time, Avis.
Since the 1960s, I think, Malcolm.
Oh, I was 3.
Yeah.
But David has just come into your world, well, some time ago, and that's what we're going to talk about, meeting somebody later in your life through... However, let's talk about your past life first, because when you were born, when you were a little girl, you used to dance around the house a lot. What happened?
Well, I went to ballet lessons. And
But why did you go to ballet lessons?
I went to ballet lessons because I was falling over all the time and I had flat feet and knock knees. And the doctor said if I didn't go to ballet lessons, I'd probably end up in calipers. That's how bad my gait was.
But did you end up in point shoes, which is probably even worse?
I ended up in point shoes instead, which did me the world of good. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But I found my world when I went to my first ballet lesson. I thought, this is where I belong.
The interesting thing was your sister also went, but she didn't take to it, did she?
No, and she was the little dainty one that Mum thought was going to be absolutely beautiful.
So your mum said, oh, well, you've danced now, that's the end of that.
She did. She said that after 3 years, and I was just devastated. I mean, I was 13 at the time, but I had a really good friend at school who'd learnt the piano and was quite advanced. And I'd done 2 exams by that stage in ballet, grade 1 and grade 2. So I knew the music quite well, and I got hold of the sheet music and I got my friend to show me how to play it. And because I knew the timing and I knew basically what it sounded like as well, I was sort of half playing it by ear and half off the music. And I went to my ballet teacher and asked her if I played for the 2 classes before me, could that pay for my own class? And she agreed to that.
Brilliant.
And
I love that.
We kept going like that until I was 16 and I won a scholarship.
Brilliant. David, what were you doing while this was going on? Because you didn't know each other, of course, at this point.
Well, I was getting some military experience, but not as a national serviceman, and then going into the workforce after I finished that.
And what did you do as your first profession, occupation?
I was delivering furniture
As we
for a company called Hoopers,
Yes.
who then became Pattersons. They no longer exist. But I spent most of my time in the back of a furniture truck because I was the jockey,
Right.
getting the next delivery ready while the driver riffed the truck around the suburban roads.
Of course, now you wouldn't be allowed to do any of that,
Absolutely
of course, with
not.
OH&S. So, Avis, what happened next for you? So, you're 16 years old, you love dancing.
Yes, I won a scholarship. I actually qualified at that age as well as a qualified classical ballet teacher in the Cicchetti method.
Oh, right.
And a year later I left school and I went out and I actually taught classical ballet for a theatre school. Elizabeth Ray Wood, who also had Swallows Juniors at one stage.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes, so, and from there I also joined the South Australian National Ballet Company.
Which was very successful in those days, wasn't it?
It was.
With David Pender.
With David Pender.
Yes.
It was interesting because it was an amateur company and I have worked in many professional companies since and not one of them has been as professional as that company was.
Interesting.
Yes.
Was it the ballet training, do you think, the discipline with ballet that
I
moved
think
them in that
so,
direction?
and the strict people around us. And we were a company of about 30, so we weren't a small company, so there had to be a certain amount of discipline around there.
Well, then you continued with a career after that, but you went to uni, didn't you? You went to Flinders, was it Flinders?
Oh, yes, but much later. No, at that point in time, The only reason why I went to Flinders was I went to rehearsals there for a show I got into.
Right.
I was successful in auditioning for Seven Deadly Sins for New Opera SA,
Right.
which was that was the opening production in the space in the Festival Centre complex.
Right, it was.
So Professor Tolcher was the director, Moshe Kadem from up there was the choreographer. So we did most of our rehearsals in the Matthew Flinders Theatre because the space hadn't been built properly at that point
No,
in
of course not.
time. Yeah,
So you're one of the first people to use the venue, I guess.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the very first
Well,
opening
we've got a couple of
performance.
shots here of you in performance mode,
Right.
which is a little after that, I guess.
Could be.
Now,
One of them was Seven Deadly
Well,
Sins.
what's interesting about this is it's Robin Archer on the right and you on the left.
Correct.
And Robin, of course, has gone on to... She was Robin Smith.
She was
remember
she
that.
was Robin Archer. Then she
Oh, was she?
became Robin. Smith.
No,
she
she was
was
Robin
Robin Smith originally, and there were 3 Robin Smiths, all in theatre in Adelaide at the
Mm.
time. And she got told she had to change her name, and it was all in a hurry. And she was living in Archer Street,
Correct,
North
yes,
Adelaide.
that's
so
right, that's
that's
right.
how she became Robin
It's
Archer.
a lovely black and white shot from that period. What was the show?
That was Seven Deadly Sins.
Oh, that's Seven Deadly Sins.
And she was Annie 1 and I was Annie 2.
Right. And the next shot we've got actually is interesting because the man in the middle is Brian Gilbertson, who is in charge of the pageant here.
That's exactly right.
And of course, he's a fantastic singer. He's been on our program. And
Mm-hmm.
you're on the right. Who's on the left?
Valerie Henke.
Isn't it wonderful hearing these names from the past again?
Yeah, yes. Well, she was from the hills, so...
All right, okay. Now, we'll just whack your leg up on my shoulder while we're at it.
Yeah, and I'll sing while I'm doing that too, because that's what
Can
I
you
used
tap
to do
dance
in
with the
those
other foot?
days. Yeah,
Exactly.
why not?
So she's doing all of these things. What have you moved into?
I started a career in management, worked my way up the ladder in many respects.
Furniture management or just management in the back of a truck?
No, not quite. I finished with Patterson's in senior management, moved on to other positions, and ended up as Director for National Pharmacies, a Director for a private health insurance company, went into heavy engineering construction, established my own consultancy in marketing and business development.
So you've had a really interesting career doing a huge diversity of things, really.
The product changed, the skills didn't.
Well, management is management, I guess.
It is,
isn't it?
yes.
But Avis, you went on. Why did you stop performing? Was it just the work there wasn't so much around, or?
Not so much that, it was more that I had to make more money to support a family.
Because you had a family.
I had a couple of children along the way, yes, and I really did have to earn a living.
Well, we reconnected again. I've got a feeling you were in Canberra at the time with Westfield.
Yes.
And we reconnected, I don't know how many years ago that was, but it's a while. And I got a bit of a surprise to find you there because I'd known of you before. Mm-hmm. So what took you into management in shopping malls? Because that's one of the biggest shopping mall syndicates in the world.
Well, that's right. Well, I started off at Southern Cross in Adelaide here.
Right.
And from there went to Tea Tree Plaza, and I spent 7 years with Westfield, 3.5 years managing Tea Tree Plaza. I then got promoted to State Marketing Manager, looking after Canberra as well. And they had one centre in Canberra and a whole heap of media problems. So I got sent over to Canberra to manage Belconnen Mall for them and sort out the media dilemma that they had.
You see, it's interesting because people don't sort of realise when you're talking to your kids about a career that they might like to have, they may go into the entertainment industry, and you don't realise that as we grow older and maybe have children and maybe you need more secure work, you can take on other positions. But that basic training of organising and making sure you're going to make everything happen becomes so valuable, which it obviously has in your life.
Absolutely. Well, you know, as a dancer, I was working in theatre. I was interested in everything about theatre and knew that we had to get bums on seats to actually earn a living. And in shopping centres, you just have to get the bums through the doors to go to the shops.
In the nicest possible way.
In the nicest possible way, yeah.
When you both look back on your life, before we talk about this next stage, what are the highlights that sort of stand out to you, that remind you of where you've come from? All of us sort of have, there's points in our lives that it could be getting married, it could be your first children, it could be your first big job. What stands out with you?
Well, it was all of that. Tempered by being mentored by some very good people. Mm-hmm. People who saw me as an investment and then left me with the responsibility of paying that forward in later years. So I value the grounding that my parents gave me, good work ethic, good morals, manners. I learned a lot from relationships I've had, personal relationships as well as commercial and business relationships. I've gained something from every one of those interactions, whether they ended well or whether they ended poorly.
Avis?
Various challenges along the way, the changes that happen through life, I guess.
Yeah, I can understand that. Just hold that thought. We'll find out what those changes are in just a tick. And welcome back to Our Time. We're talking with Avis and David Tolcher, and this little fella, does he have a name?
Just COVID Bear.
COVID Bear, and it's rather obvious when you look in close up, because he's got a little mask. Our director wants to take this home, but he can't.
No.
That's very cute. We'll talk about you making these, because I love that story too. I'll put him back to where he's supposed to be, where floor manager, is that good?
That's good.
She's nodding. She's saying, yes, that's good. So, the highlights in your life.
Okay, well, yes, there were highlights of having children and different career changes and things like that. I actually went from shopping centre management into road safety and moved up to Queensland, which I absolutely loved. And then the big drama of my life hit, and that was being diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's hard. That's really hard. And I had to have a breast removed and go through all the treatment and that sort of thing.
The chemo? Did you have all
No,
that?
I didn't have chemo.
Radio.
Yeah. But when I say I didn't have chemo, I was on chemo-style drugs for 5 years afterwards, which are absolutely horrible. And funnily enough...
But when we say horrible, you're still
I'm
here.
alive, exactly. And I
it's
say
a small
that,
price to pay, isn't
I
it?
say that to everyone else, that because two of my friends that were on it with me stopped because they just couldn't take it anymore, and they both died. So that sort of says it, doesn't it?
It does really, yeah.
But at that time, I also renewed my interest in dance. And I hadn't danced for 15 years. I hadn't been near a stage in that time.
Well, it never really leaves you, does it? Once that's embedded in your brain, that muscle memory always stays.
Oh, absolutely.
We've got some let's just cut forward quickly because we want to talk about the other big subject. But you came back to South Australia really to look after your dad.
I did, yes.
And you ended up in Murray Bridge.
I did.
And out of the blue, something happened.
I got a job there,
yes.
managing the Murray Bridge Town Hall, which was perfect because my knowledge of buildings from shopping centre management and my marketing, of course, and my knowledge of theatre all sort of sat nicely together, and you and I met again.
We
yes.
did. And what's lovely is, and this has happened, I guess, to a lot of older performers who really just don't want to throw away the tap shoes or the dancing boots, and you started a group.
Yeah, I actually, the first group I started was up in Queensland, and that was for cancer survivors. Mm-hmm. Then when I moved to Murray Bridge...
Because the exercise is really helpful.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then when I got to Murray Bridge, I started a troop of cancer survivors. And
We've
then,
got some shots of...
No, not that troop.
Not those?
We haven't.
Okay,
No,
okay,
the
keep moving.
next troop that I had were the town hall troopers, because I was working in the town
Oh, of course.
hall. So what
Is that the
could
one
I
we've
do?
got?
That you
Let's have a look at that
got,
one.
Yes,
We're seeing all of the
exactly.
girls lined up. Are they all girls?
Yes, they are in that photo.
They all
There
look
was
very
one
smart.
guy. There was one guy, but he refused to perform. So
Oh, how dare
there you
he.
go. Yes,
Missing
Which
out
was
his big
interesting.
chance being in
yeah,
Bevy
he
of
was
Beauties.
actually. Yes.
Were they tapping Avis?
No, they weren't. No, they did go on to tap later, but at that point in time, that was just a sort of, I always say, a Broadway style number.
Oh, okay. Yep.
We did a lot of different sort of things, and then
Obviously,
I
that was a
also-
Christmas
Yeah, it was a Christmas party.
concert
that
or
one.
party.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was.
And the next shot we've got,
Now,
there's a bit of
this
a kick line starting there, we can
Yeah,
see.
well, that's two troops that I had combined together. That's the Town Hall Troopers and the Murray Marvels. And the Murray Marvels actually came out of retirement villages.
Oh, brilliant.
So all of the dancers there are over 60 years old.
So you're never too old
No,
to give it a
no.
go. There's another shot here.
Yes, that's my older group, the Murray Marvels, and they're actually performing a neo-classical number
Right.
at the Murraylands Mental Health Expo in the Murray Bridge Town Hall again. Yeah.
See, there are opportunities everywhere, but finally you actually had to say goodbye.
I did, yes. I've got spinal stenosis, which is a pretty nasty thing in my back, and it means that I can't dance anymore. So
You can in your mind.
I can in my mind,
Think of
yes, yes. And I think, well, gee, I made it into my 70s. I did quite well.
Yes. Well, dancers' lives often don't last that long.
No, they
But you
don't.
don't have even the flexibility to do simple stuff.
No.
Now, so you're sitting in Murray Bridge.
Yep.
And you're thinking, what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting
In Murray Bridge,
thinking,
life's pretty good actually, because I had 21 horses.
of
To look
course you
after.
did. Go and chat to the nags, so to speak.
Well, I was comfortable.
Right, but friends got on your case.
Yes, some colleagues. I was dabbling in the disability sector, providing support to adult men with disabilities. Mm-hmm. And some of my colleagues said I really had to get a life. And
Not
I
that
said,
you
look,
hadn't had
I'm fine. You know, I'm perfectly happy. I have a full life. But they cajoled me into having a look at a local online site to see if there was a lady that might interest me. Mm-hmm. And over a couple of nights, I found one and started a dialogue. Mind you, sight unseen, because this particular lady chose not to put a photograph up.
Well, I was very well known in Murray Bridge because of managing the town hall.
Oh, so
For
you
all the
were
right
And
reasons.
I had to be a bit careful about who saw my photo, knowing I lived alone. And
were you afraid you might be catfished as the
I
common
was.
thing? Yes.
Yes, I was.
Right. Okay. So you're talking with her?
Yes, a friendly dialogue backwards and forwards. Then I'm not too sure whether I asked or whether Avis suggested we met for coffee.
Actually,
Okay, hold it there. So what had you been doing up to that point?
up till that point, I'd also been looking at guys online, and I went out with quite a few and found a lot of them were a complete and utter waste of time and space. So I was actually the one that said, let's meet for coffee, because I thought, let's get this over and done with, because if he's useless, I don't want to waste any time on him.
Well, fair enough. You haven't got that much time left.
No, that's right.
In life, so you've got to...
yeah. We had to move it along, yes.
So you arranged to go for coffee. So where did you meet? You met in a out of the way place, or
In some respects, yes.
Yeah.
It was a Swamport Hotel
right,
on the outskirts of Murray Bridge.
right?
And my sister knew where I was in case she got an SOS on the phone.
Oh, okay. You didn't make the arrangement for her to ring you just in case.
No.
Oh, I have to go. I'm sorry. Oh, lovely to meet you, but I have to go now. No.
But I would have gone to the loo via the bar and said, keep that man occupied while I make my escape if I had to.
Okay. All the tricks coming out.
Yep.
But that didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
You arranged to meet again?
We did. We went out to dinner together.
And what was your opening line that night?
Well, not quite my opening line, but I thought, well, one of the problems I'd had with previous men I'd been meeting was that as soon as they found out I'd had a mastectomy and only had one breast, they weren't interested anymore. So I really wanted to test the waters, I guess, and also I still wanted to have some sort of physical relationship, and if that was going to happen, I didn't want the man to get a hell of a shock. So I thought, well, I better tell him. So
can't exactly dress up in a suit of armour, I suppose.
No, you can't. So over dinner, I said to him, by the way, I've got something to tell you. I've only got one breast. And that's how I said it. So.
And that's actually before we'd ordered a meal.
Oh.
It was that.
So he could have run.
Well, he didn't want to go too far into the evening.
No.
And your reaction to that?
Surprised.
Surprised that she said it, or surprised that it was...
Surprised, just simply because that's the last thing I expected to hear. Yes. I'd gone through life not even thinking about it. Aware that women suffer from breast cancer, but never ever equated it on how it might impact my life. So that was the first thing. The second thing was, wow, this woman has got guts. Right? Cut to the chase. No mucking around. So that was fine. And the evening progressed quite well after that. I don't think... I got over the surprise fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I asked some questions. I can't remember what the questions were, but they related to Avis and the fact that...
Oh, what's the time? Oh, dear. Wasn't that?
No, there was no rush. But I think at that time I still wasn't allowed to take you home.
Yes, I let you drop me home that night.
That's right, yes.
Okay. Look, we'll be back to hear the saga in just a moment. And welcome back. We've been talking with Avis and David Tolcher. Avis, I don't know why suddenly I can't say your name. Now, what site did you go on to find each other?
Oasis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the free one.
Well, it's all right. Would you advise people in your age bracket to have a go with this if they're feeling lonely? Not that we're advocating this. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as long as they're careful, just have a few things in place to make sure that they don't put themselves at risk.
Well, so to wrap up the story, you both had homes.
Yes.
So what did you do? Did you move into one or the other, or?
No, we sold them both and bought another home together out at Caloot.
Okay. And with that, how did you sort of push both of your tastes together? Because after you've lived a whole life, you like certain things to be there or certain things to be there.
We had similar taste in furniture, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
Like any.
Yeah, I have
a
trouble.
chair and table are good.
Yeah. No, we like dark timber and things like that, so that helped.
Yep.
But I tend to be minimalistic and David is clutter.
So man after my own heart, David.
That's been fun. That's been interesting.
I have a bit of a clean up every now and then. I learnt a lot from Avis, moving from a farm,
right,
and scaling down. And that took about 10 years.
But you've now got separate offices at the either end of the house, and you can go visit each other or whatever. Thank you so much for being part of this and actually talking so honestly about your life. Everyone's got a story, but we don't always hear the whole story.
No.
And hopefully that's been encouraging to you also, particularly if you've got some of the issues that Avis has had in her life. So until next time we meet on OurTime, thanks Avis, thanks David, and thank you for being part of this program. So until we see you again, keep yourself nice till then. Bye.